A serial killer once asked the police a question. He trusted the answer. It was the worst mistake of his life. This is how BTK was caught after 30 years, and why this story isn't really about him at all. Stay with us, because the detail everyone remembers isn't the whole story. January 15th, 1974. The Otero family home. Joseph Otero Sr., a veteran, a father. Josephine Otero, a mother. Their children, Julie, 11, Joseph Jr., 9. We see hands at a breakfast table, a coat on a chair, light through curtains. It was an ordinary morning, which is to say, it was everything. What happened next is documented in court records. We are not going to describe it. What matters here is who they were before history reduced them to a case file. Slow dissolve. Catherine Bright was 21. Nancy Fox was 25. Shirley Vian had 3 children. Maureen Hedge was known for showing up when neighbors needed her. Vicki Wegerle played piano. Dolores Davis had grandchildren who adored her. 10 people, 10 ordinary lives. If you've heard of BTK before, pause for a second. How many of their names did you know? This story begins there. On January 15th, 1974, the Otero family was found inside their home. 4 homicides. The Wichita Police Department formed a task force immediately. They collected evidence, interviewed hundreds of people, followed leads for years. But here's what they didn't have. No national DNA database, no digital metadata, no modern forensic software. The tools that would eventually identify the killer did not yet exist. 4 months later, Catherine Bright was attacked, then Shirley Vian, then Nancy Fox. He named himself Bind, Torture, Kill, and that name would become part of Wichita's vocabulary for decades. Letters arrived at media outlets and police.
Detectives faced an impossible choice: publish and risk encouraging him, or withhold and lose investigative leverage. Family member interview. You never got to stop carrying it. After 1979, the letters stopped. The killings, as far as investigators could determine, stopped. But the case didn't close. 30 years later, a floppy disk would arrive at a television station. But we're not there yet.
Dennis Rader lived in Park City, Kansas. He worked as a compliance officer. He served as president of his church congregation. He had a wife and 2 children. He appeared ordinary. Compartmentalization isn't rare. What's rare is detecting dangerous behavior when it's hidden behind routine. Court records show Rader was diagnosed with sexual sadism. He was evaluated, found competent, found criminally responsible. He later used a phrase, Factor X. His evaluators rejected it. It carries no legal or psychological weight. Between 1985 and 1991, 3 more women were killed. Maureen Hedge, Vicki Wegerle, Dolores Davis. And then silence again. But silence is not the same thing as safety. 30 years after the Otero family, he resumed contact. Why? He wanted recognition. A book had been published about the case. He believed it minimized him. That need for acknowledgement, documented in his own communications, would become his vulnerability. Every letter, every package, cataloged. Then, in early 2005, a floppy disk arrived. It contained a deleted file. Metadata, invisible digital records, pointed to a name, Dennis, and an organization, Christ Lutheran Church. But that wasn't enough. Investigators corroborated it. DNA from a familial comparison, vehicle records, church documentation, surveillance. The floppy disk wasn't cinematic. It was ordinary. And that's why it worked. February 25th, 2005. Dennis Rader was arrested during a traffic stop. He was 60 years old. One of the family members of the victims said, "I didn't know what to do with the relief. Justice after 30 years doesn't feel the way you expect." June 27th, 2005. Guilty plea. August 18th, 2005. At sentencing, Rader spoke at length. Observers described his tone as clinical, flat, measured. We do not show him. He received 10 consecutive life sentences, a minimum of 175 years before parole eligibility. He remains incarcerated at El Dorado Correctional Facility. And then something unusual happened. He disappeared from this story. One of the surviving family members said, "Closure isn't the right word." A detective noted, "It just felt quiet." The city changed. The case is studied now in criminology programs. The metadata became a digital forensics footnote. None of that is the point. The point is this: Joseph Otero, Josephine Otero, Julie Otero, Joseph Otero Jr., Catherine Bright, Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox, Maureen Hedge, Vicki Wegerly, Dolores Davis. 10 people, 10 ordinary mornings, everything. This film centers the victims and their families. Crime scene materials were not used. Rader's post-arrest media appearances were not used. How many of their names will you remember tomorrow?